The box model. The box model is extremely important in CSS, and before showing you the slide, I would like to demonstrate something in Text Wrangler. So let's go ahead and open a box model example. I have this HTML page which has nothing actually. It's the doc type, the HTML element, the head, and the body. The head is saying understanding box model, so that's what we will see in the title bar. Let me go ahead and open this. That's it, understanding box model, empty page, nothing there. The meta is for the character set and the content type, and the link is linking to a file called style.css. Okay, what I want to create in the body element is a div, so hit enter and indent because the div is the child of the body, and in fact all the elements that are in the body are the children of the body element. So open the div element and close the div element, and let's give it an ID box model. Remember that the value that you choose for an ID or a class is up to you. There's no rule. You can choose this value to be container, content, table, flower, tree, whatever. Obviously, we don't use terms like table, flower, tree because it doesn't make sense. We use terms like container, box, top box, content, navigation area, you know, words like that. So div ID box model, close the div. Save this. Okay, now we want to reference this in CSS. So I'm going to open the style.css file, and what I'm going to say is div pound box model, right? So we have a div whose ID is box model, and the ID is represented by a pound sign. Open and close curly braces, and I will start adding my properties right here. Before doing so, I want to save this, and I want to explain something else, just in order to clarify the box model. So body margin 0. Okay, the reason why I did this is because some block level elements, including the body, come with a default margin. And whatever I include in this page is going to have a space on the top and on the left side, unless I say margin 0 to the body element. And that space comes from the body element because the body element is one of the block level elements that have a default margin. If we don't want to see that empty space, we set the margin to 0. That's what I'm doing from the beginning in order to understand my box model exercise better. So let's save this. Let's see, do we see anything? Obviously not, because even though we have a div here, the div is a thin, transparent nothingness unless it has a width, a height, and a background color. So let's go ahead and give it a width, like 200 pixels, height, 200 pixels, background color, red, for example. That's all. Let's look at it for now. Save and refresh the page. I refresh the page by holding down the command key and clicking the letter R. So this is my red div that is 200 pixels wide, 200 pixels high, and it is stuck to the top left corner of the screen. That's precisely because I said body margin 0. If I remove this, save, you're going to see this default margin that is because of the body element that has a default margin. The body element has it, the P element has it at the top and the bottom, the UL element has it on the left, I believe, the LI, and so on. So many block level elements have this default margin. So I'm going to put this back, save, and refresh the page. Okay, now let's understand the box model. So far we've just created a div which is red, and it's 200 pixels wide, 200 pixels high, What I'm going to do now is give this div a margin. Margin, let's say 20 pixels. Let's see what happens. Refresh the page. That's it. So what I did is, if you remember from the slides, when we say margin 20 pixels, it means I want a 20 pixel space from the top, from the right, from the bottom, and from the left side. Obviously, on the right and on the bottom of this red div, there aren't any elements. That's why you don't see the space. But in fact, there is a 20 pixel space on the right side and on the bottom of this red div. So margin is basically the space outside of the element. Let's see what padding is. Let's say padding 20 pixels. I'm going to refresh. I'm holding down the command key. I'm going to click on the letter R now. Okay, what happened? 20 pixels were added within the div. So my original div is 200 by 200 pixels. I added a 20 pixel padding on all four sides. So now I have 20 pixels from the top, from the right, from the bottom, and from the left, which means that my new width is 240 pixels and my new height is 240 pixels. But in fact, the real size of my original div is always 200 by 200 pixels. It just happens to have padding. That's why it looks bigger. Let's see what border does. Let's say 20 pixels, solid green. Okay, refresh. There you go. So a 20 pixel border was added around my div, and it is green and it is solid. That's why you see a solid line. If you want, let's say dotted, let's see what that does. This is dotted, you have dashed, and so forth. So it's endless. And this is the idea of the box model. It's very important to understand this. That way we understand how divs work, and then we understand the flow of an HTML page. And now let's unveil the slide. So the box model is the following. What you see in the center is the original size of the div. What comes after it is the padding, so the space within the div. The border is what we added as far as border, and the margin is the space outside of the element, basically the space between the element and another space or the edge of the screen, and so forth. But always remember that the main size of the div is the original width and height before adding padding, border, or margin. If padding has 0 width, then padding edge is the same as the div edge. Makes sense. If border has 0 width, then border edge is the same as the padding edge. If margin has 0 width, then margin edge is the same as the border edge. The width and height dimensions refer to the innermost box.